Alright, hello everyone, my name is Chris, and I am coming at you guys with a reading update for Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. This would normally have been a longer video about, with me doing a reading vlog style kind of video. I did my reading sprints on Saturday, but my roommates were making a bunch of noise when I went to do the recording, so I scrapped that idea. So here we go. So when we last left off with everyone, Kaladin was just arriving at the Shattered Plains after being imprisoned for killing a Light Eyes. And that is all we knew about that. And Shalon Devar was just arriving in a new city, seeking out one Yasna Kolin so that she could be a ward under her. So picking up there, again, we follow a couple of different people's perspectives in about 100-ish pages I read. Alright. So, I will start with Kaladin, then. Kaladin gets lined up in front of a bright-eyed woman who is apparently in charge of purchasing slaves, and he almost makes it into being able to join the army again, except the slaver, whose name I don't remember at this point, he's not important anymore, shoots that plan down by telling the bright-eyed lady that he is a deserter, and that kind of ruins any chance he had of getting into the army. So from there, he thinks he is getting put into just general labor work. Come to find out, actually, that he is instead going to be part of what they call as bridge crews, and the bridge crews, his job is to carry this big wooden bridge, for lack of a better word, out onto the Shattered Plains to bridge the gaps between the different plateaus, basically, that are separated by huge chasms, so that the army can go fight the Parshendi. This would normally not be that big of a deal, it would suck, but the bridge crews are apparently expected, as we see when he does his first bridge run, are expected to run right into the face of the enemy fire, and they are effectively disposable. Which is why they use slaves and criminals and whatnot for the job. So we see him do his first bridge run, and it is a disaster, as one might expect. And from there, he basically just falls into a really deep depression. During this time, what he was thinking of as a Windspren gives him her name, which is also unusual. And she names herself as Silfrena, or Sil for short. And they do a bunch of bridge runs. They lose basically their entire crew over and over again, which was explicitly why Kaladin was assigned to this bridge crew, because the bridge master, for lack of a better term for him, they don't give him a title, so I'm just gonna call him that. His name is Gav. He hates Kaladin for some reason. Kaladin gets gets a little uppity with him when they first meet, but other than that, they don't really interact all that much. So the kind of perpetual, antagonism between the two of them is really strange. But it's there. So he assigns Kaladin to what is widely by the bridge crews considered to be the unluckiest bridge crew, Bridge 4. Because they tend to lose basically everybody on every run. And that is how, I think it's a couple weeks ago, we're not really told how long it is, but Kaladin ends up sinking so deep into his, wallowing in self-pity that Syl tells him she needs to leave, and she can't stand seeing Kaladin like that, and that she will try to come back, and so she leaves, which only just pushes Kaladin even deeper down. It gets to the point where he decides to walk up to Honor's Chasm, which is just one of the chasms that is there and so named because I'm assuming it's mostly the bridge crews, but I won't say that as an absolute. Go there to end it when they just can't take it anymore. So, he is there and about to jump into the chasm when Syl returns and gives him, unknowingly to her, one of the leaves he'd had at while he was in the carriage ride. She doesn't know it is a poison, but that manages to just kind of the pure innocence of that act with her not knowing what it was and assuming it would make him happy kind of jerks Kaladin out of this funk he is in, and he agrees to try to help the bridge members at Bridge 4 when he gets back to Gav. He gets into an altercation with him, which ends in him convincing Gav for a small price to basically get out of Kaladin's way and let Kaladin do whatever he wants with his bridge team. And we leave Kaladin starting to get to know his bridge team. So shifting over to Shallan, Shallan has managed to catch up with Jasnah, where she gets a brief conversation with her and has an interview with her about whether or not she can become a ward, and she is initially denied wardship through Jasnah, and this is the first time we see soul casting in action, when Jasnah uses what they call a fabrial, which is just a mechanism that uses I'll go over fabrials later, because they'll give a better description in the book for fabrials than I could right now. But she uses it to clear away a bunch of rock and rubble from a recent high storm that has collapsed, sealing the king, Taravangian. Right? He's actually important. I need to check his name. But this is also the first time we're introduced to him. Yeah, Taravangian. Sorry. He is actually an important character, and he will keep coming up, so I wanted to get his name right. Yeah, so the king is Taravangian, and his niece is stuck behind this wall with one of her caretakers. And we watch Jasnah literally turn all of the rock and rubble into smoke. And this is also when we find out why Shallan so desperately wants to be one of Yasna's wards. I come to find out that her family at one point had a soulcaster, and their father was using it to write checks bigger than he could cash, for lack of a better, less antagonistic phrasing. And when he died, the Fabrial broke at some point, and now they either need to get it fixed, which they can't seem to be able to do, or they need a new one. So the plan is that Shallan will become Yasna's ward, earn her trust, steal the soulcaster, and leave. This is also when we get the first hint at something having happened between Shallan and her mother, which I won't say because I don't want to spoil too much for this book, because it is a very good book. But this is also the first time we get an implication that things at home were not so grand as one might think of a noble family. So from there, we now get we leave both Shallan and Kaladin briefly, and we get a perspective from 3 new people. It is an interlude, as events end up with the as the events between Kaladin and Shallan wrap up the end of the first part of the book. We get an interlude between a man named Ishik, a man named Nanblat, and we get to see Seth again. So Ishiki is apparently a fisherman of some skill in a land called in an area of Roshar called the Vapur Lake. And we don't know much, and we're not told much in the one chapter we get from his perspective. And all we know is that there is a woman in the village who is seeking him as a husband, and they have been playing a game of cat and mouse for a little bit, and that there are 3 strangers in town that are looking for somebody. We're not even given a name of who they're looking for, but that is about all that happens here. Oh, no, we are given a name. They are looking for a man named Romer. But that is all we know. These are actually very short chapters, just kind of giving an idea of some of the other events going on in the world. Some of them are important, however. Like the second interlude, we're following a man named Nanblat, who is apparently one of Shallan's siblings. And we are introduced to him in a very dark way, and he gives us a very good idea that, an even clearer picture that things were not rosy at home for the Devar family. As we come to him pulling the legs off of a crab, and berating himself for being a coward. But otherwise, there isn't a lot that happens in this chapter. It is just more of a perspective on one of Shallan's brothers, when another one comes into the picture saying that they have a problem and that none needs to follow them. But that is where that interlude leaves. I do remember we do go back to them later, so that we don't just leave that there, thankfully. And then we go back to Seth and find out what he's been doing since he killed the king at the beginning of the book. And apparently he has been going from master to master, as he is a truthless, so he is basically a slave, doing odd jobs and never really staying in one place for very long. We get a good look at his current master, who is a sodden drunk, and basically makes him do really dumb things for the amusement of his other friends. But at the end of this chapter of mostly Seth ruminating about the events of the beginning of the book, we see that he is picked up by an assassin of some sort, who, after confirming that now that he has this rock that is called his Oathstone, and that Seth has to do whatever he says, we leave them there. So, we're starting to get into the meat of the book with the first part done, and we're starting to see the next part follows 3 new characters, being or the next chapter, the beginning of the next part, follows 2 new characters, being Dalinar and his son Adolin, who we were briefly told about at one point earlier, while following Kaladin, Dalinar is the current king's brother, and Adolin is his son. So, but that is as far as I got on Saturday. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys find yourselves a good book to read at some point this week, and get lost in a wonderful world. I will talk to you guys later. Hopefully I will have a book review for Gunmetal Gods for you guys by this Friday. If not, it'll definitely be out next Friday. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.